Guys, we have a guest today that I am very, very excited about. She is running against Susan Collins for the Senate over in Maine. And Susan Collins, of course, is considered a moderate Republican, which is also known as compassionate fascist. And this woman is running against her in the Green Party, and ranked choice voting is part of that campaign. She's also an activist and a teacher and an educator. So please welcome to the show, Lisa Savage, also known as Lisa for Maine. Lisa, how are you?
I'm very well, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on the show today. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So, well, let's start a little bit about you before we get into the issue. So, what do you teach?
Well, I've been a reading interventionist for the last several years, so working with young learners. Before that, I was a literacy coach in my district, so that's more of a professional development job supporting teachers. And before that, I taught high school social studies for quite a while.
So, the reading instruction. So you taught high school, but how young did you go as far as like the reading instruction? Was that elementary school or was that middle school or?
Yeah, kindergarten is the youngest.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you're a very patient person.
I may have used it all up by now. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's difficult, but it's so important. I mean, it's got to be kind of a rush too, because, you know, when kids are in kindergarten, their brain is just kind of a sponge, and you're teaching them fundamentals of reading, which of course they're going to use for the rest of their lives.
It's true. They always, they love you. They hug you. They're happy when you come to their room to get them. They also sneeze on you and all your materials constantly.
Oh, so boy.
There's upsides and downsides to every age group, but I'm just a person that's really interested in learning. I'm a lifelong learner myself. I love the learning process, and especially I'm fascinated when there are barriers to learning. So it's been a great job for me. I'm retiring right now. It's the end of a 25-year career teaching. So it's been a good one.
So you thought, you know what, it's time for me to retire. I've taught for a lot of years. That's a stressful gig. I should probably do something way less stressful. I know, politics. That's
perfect, right? Well, actually, I had planned to retire at the end of next year because I helped write a federal grant, a school improvement grant, and the grant went to the end of next school year. So I had said I'll retire then. But this summer, I was on the beach in southern Maine, and I got a phone call, and this friendly person said, "Hey, Lisa, it's ranked choice voting in your Senate election. Susan Collins is plummeting in the polls. Wouldn't you like to run for senator?" And it was the last thing I was thinking about. I have held elected office before, but I was a union vice president and chief negotiator for several years in the district that I worked in before this one. I wasn't planning to go into electoral politics, but I do kind of come from a family that does that. My father was running for the Maine House when he died suddenly in 1988. And his father, my grandfather, was high school classmates with Margaret Chase Smith, and they remained friends for life. And because both went into politics, my grandfather served in the Maine House and Senate. And I've met Senator Smith. And so on that side of my family, the Savage side of my family, it's kind of a normal thing to go into public service. And, I'm very, very worried about the families of the students that I've been working with for 25 years. I live in the 2nd district in Maine. It's the poor part of Maine up north. And people have been, long before the pandemic, were barely making it. The economy was designed for them to fail. They'd have 2 or 3 jobs that barely made the bills. Mm-hmm. And one little accident, mistake, illness was enough to completely, destroy their arrangements. And then now that with the pandemic, I know hunger has grown immensely. The lack of leadership at the federal level has just been stupefying, really. So
it's been mind blowing. I mean, it's been, we are a straight up banana republic. It's unreal. They just said, "Hey, Banks, here's trillion. We're going to go on vacation." So are you a lifelong Mainer then?
Yes, I was born in Maine. I went to Bowdoin College here in Maine. And then when I became a teacher, I got a master's degree in education from the University of Southern Maine. And I've lived here since 1988, brought my own kids up here. But my mother was from California. So I actually grew up in California. After kindergarten, we moved there, and I lived in California through high school and then came back to Maine.
Okay. When's the best time of the year to go to Maine?
Well, probably the fall when the leaves are
All right.
turning pretty colors and it's still warm.
All right. Well, if you know, it's impossible to predict how the year is going to look, but if we are back to some amount of normalcy by the fall, I'm supposed to be there in September, so I'm hoping that still happens because it'll be my first time. I've never been to Maine.
Oh, it's beautiful. September's a good time too. Still can get out on the water in a canoe and,
My fingers are crossed. I'm really hoping it still happens. If not, we'll reschedule it for a nice time too. But yeah, I'm hoping to get there. Never been to Maine before. It's one of the states on my list.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your